All right, and welcome to Cinema Slapdown. This is an exciting event. This is the, I guess this is the third of our Zoom Slapdowns that we've had. Thank you everybody for coming out. This time we will be debating the social dilemma. Let me start off by some thank yous to folks who, without whom we couldn't have made this happen. I'd like to thank Sandy Krupasen, who always makes all of these happen. We certainly wouldn't be able to do this without Sandy, so thank you, Sandy. Thank our two debaters this evening, Ginger De Leon and Rosie Ruiz. I'd like to thank Helena Haber, the Student Government Association, orientation leaders, the new student programs, Giovanna Martin, Elise Nina, Kevin Kantorski, the new chair of CTVA, Thelma Vickroy, faculty friends, and this is Columbia weekend, so big thank you to parents, and thank all of you for coming out. One thing I would like to say right at the beginning is if you're here, that you're agreeing to be recorded. If you don't want to be recorded, please turn your video off. We'll be doing screenshots, and this is going live onto Facebook. And also being recorded on Zoom. So let me introduce our two debaters this evening. On the pro side, I'd like to introduce Ginger De Leon. Ginger is from Chicago, is a transfer student, and is currently in her senior year. She's majoring in acting with a minor in voiceover. Let's give a big warm welcome to Ginger. Thank you, Ginger. And on the con side, we have Rosie Ruiz. She's a transfer student from Morton College, and this is her first year at Columbia. She thinks it's been a great year if she's honest. She's currently studying graphic design and has a lot of fun here at Columbia. It's surpassed her wildest dreams. She says that the last time she debated was in high school, but we all know that you will be rocking this evening. Thank you so much, Rosie. So to start off, we will do the ritual rock, paper, scissors to determine who will begin the debate. So here we go, everybody. Got our hands out? Okay, and we'll do it on shoot, so it'll be rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Okay, ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh, Rosie, you will be going first. You will have 3 minutes. And just a reminder to everybody, each of the debaters will be making their opening remarks in 3 minutes. We will then have some more debating, and then we will open it out to everybody's participation, questions, comments. Feel free to use the chat as we go to start making comments, questions, all of these things, and then we'll give us an opportunity to then call on you as we continue on. So, Rosie, whenever you are ready.
Okay. So I want to start off with social media social media can help at times. So I would like to bring up how in the past with social media, I use it as a way to be expressive of myself, to be creative. And sometimes when you're feeling upset, I use social media to go help me feel better. So, but how I do it is I watch funny videos. I like laughing. Laughing is what helps me feel better. So social media for me is what brings me joy when I'm feeling low. It also helps small content creators. So by that I mean you may be a content creator, you may be making comedic skits or even dramatic videos, and it helps bring awareness to yourself. It helps you, I wouldn't want to say become famous because that might not happen, but it does bring you a little audience. As well as Instagram, it can help promote your business. I especially know that for a fact because I have a friend who makes earrings, and because of social media, she was able to sell her earrings all throughout the country. And it also helps creators with music, such as musicians. They put up their music in TikTok, people use it, and it brings up their usage, their streaming, and it could even potentially help them create an album. That's how some. That's how I've learned new artists that way. I would also like to bring up how, unfortunately, we are in a pandemic, so we can't be seeing each other, and honestly, we shouldn't be seeing each other face to face. But with the help of social media, it's been helping us to have new ways to communicate with your friends, and it's been helping you find new activities with your friends, even though you can't be with them in person. And another thing is, with the help of social media, it keeps us connected.
All right, your
Also,
time is up. And Ginger, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. All right. So, look, I get it. It's no surprise why people spend so much time on social media. It's addictive. I mean, it's not a coincidence. Social media works on a cycle that's designed to hook us and then reward us with a really quick fix and then keep us wanting more over and over again. And honestly, engaging in social media is a form of a behavioral addiction. I mean, like most addictions, there can be serious and even dangerous consequences to it. And the addictive nature of social media has a big role to play when it comes to the state of our mental health. I mean, not only does cyberbullying lead to an increase in anxiety, depression, and suicide, but we also have to deal with a toxic relationship that happens between the number of likes, comments, and followers that we get, and how we use that to measure our self-worth. I mean, social media opens you up to the criticism of anyone with an account, and it makes your self-esteem very dependent on the positive or negative feedback that we get, and it's not healthy. And so while you're busy scrolling, liking, and following, your every digital move is being tracked and analyzed for these platforms. And for what reason? Well, to collect data. And the more data they have, they can create a more accurate digital profile of what you like, you dislike, your beliefs. I mean, basically who you are. And that data is used to make social media algorithms more skilled at curating content just for you. But ultimately, this digital profile of you that exists somewhere out there is being sold to any second-party advertiser who wants to advertise to a specific group of people who are more likely to buy their products and services. And in a word, it's manipulation. And what's really frustrating about it is that they're not even doing anything illegal yet, because currently very few laws exist to protect our digital privacy. And as they mentioned in the documentary, algorithms can spread misinformation, incite violence, and disrupt elections. And so the algorithms are only designed to curate content. They can't distinguish between true or false. So if you're only being shown content that is specifically aligns with your digital profile, then it's easier to see why we can't seem to see eye to eye right now and have like a shared understanding of reality and facts. I mean, it creates a standard of I'm right and you're wrong from both sides, and it leaves very little reason to interact with people who don't have your same belief system. And right now, in a time of extreme social and political polarization, so many people feel so much more alienated, alone, paranoid, and anxious. I mean, how do you handle a pandemic, social injustices, and voting rights in the age of, fake news? You can easily say fake news whenever the truth and facts don't align with your particular beliefs or agenda. And it's like playing a get out of jail free card whenever you want to disengage yourself from having to be wrong. And social media only makes it easier to spread this kind of harmful rhetoric.
And time. So just to start off with some of the questions and discussion about this, you know, this is a moment in our history where we've never seen more conspiratorial thinking, right? We can look at the rise of QAnon or Pizzagate. They have flat earth conferences that are well attended. And there was a statistic that leaked from Facebook, from their own internal documents that the Wall Street Journal published, that Facebook found that 64% of the extremist groups that people joined were due to Facebook's own recommendation system. So we have people joining white supremacist groups and these various conspiratorial things because they've joined one thing and then Facebook recommends, how about join this other one? So we can see all of these things happening, but to broaden out the question, is social media the cause of all these issues, or are the root causes different, right? Is it coming from somewhere else? Does it have something to do with humanity? Is it more that social media is allowing like-minded people to find each other in a way that used to be more difficult? What is it that's causing all of these problems?
Well, I would say it starts with humanity. I mean, we always, and anytime we don't understand anything, we're afraid of it. So if you get one group of people who thinks that this group of people is not like me, you fear that group of people. So social media is just the like the intermediary tool, let's say, to join all those kinds of people together and think that, oh, we're all alike, but those people are all different. So it just gives you a tool, a platform to basically connect with other people who think just like you. And even if you're kind of in the in-between, if you show signs of believing in conspiracy theories or being, you know, already kind of racist, it's going to suggest these things to you. So it's only going to solidify to that kind of person that there is a space and a group of people on Facebook and in the world that believes in what you believe. So it's really just, it's a humanity thing, but social media makes it worse.
What do you think, Rosie?
I do think it's a humanity thing. Yes, social media may kind of accelerate these beliefs on people, but ultimately it's the person. It's up to you if you want to believe that, or if you, like, for instance, the flat earthers. A bunch of science has confirmed that the earth isn't flat. But ultimately it's up to the person to take science for its word or keep believing in what they believe. It's really humanity. It's social media is there, but before we can blame social media, we have to look into what your beliefs are first.
Does the film try to oversimplify some of these issues? Like, you know, like for example, they talk about the rise in mental illness starting around the time of the rise in social media, but they don't acknowledge things like the rise in economic insecurity that aligns with that same time period. Is this an oversimplification?
Yes. So I looked up back around, they used the years 2011 and 2013. The preteens and teens became more depressed because social media was also in the rise. However, I also want to remind, unfortunately, during that time period, there was school shootings. Unfortunately, towards the end of 2012, there was the Sandy Hook shooting. And from my personal experience, I can remember hearing about it and hearing and seeing how worried other students were to see if this would happen to them, as well as there was riots at the time and there was arguments on gun control. Even as a child, all this political, the political environment does affect us. So yes, if this generation does seem a little bit more anxious and depressed, it's because we have to take a look at our environment. We lived through the 2018 housing crisis, the school shootings, innocent lives were taken as from, of course, the school shootings and Black Lives Matter. So it's not just social media. If anything, social media has helped understand what's going on and show what's going on to us.
So I think you're right on that, there is sort of a oversimplification about how social media is to blame for everything. I don't think that's right, because obviously they come from just one point of view. But I want to say that social media only makes things worse. And I get it. I mean, yes, school shootings, and of course it has to do with generations. Every generation kind of has certain telltale characteristics, and Gen Z is more characterized by being more depressed, more anxious, less willing to take risks, those kind of things. So it has to do with just in the generation that their parents were brought up and how they were raised. But I want to say specifically what I saw in the documentary that made a lot of sense, and I think that social media is to blame for it. So normally kids get bullied at school, you feel very self-conscious about your looks, but having a social media account, I mean, keep in mind, most social media accounts, platforms, the minimum age is 13. That's a preteen. I mean, that's a very young age and a very impressionable age to have basically, like I said, anyone with an account anywhere in the world. You post a picture and, you get criticism, you get some likes, but you also get negative comments. And so what they're seeing is that there's a lot of, let's say, like body dysmorphia issues, where especially young girls are being, not only do they have to deal with, every social media, you can edit your pictures, you can filter them heavily. And like, this is changing the way that they're looking at themselves, because they see, a more perfect version of themselves in an edited photo of a selfie that they post. And when they don't look like that in real life, they feel more depressed because they don't look like that. In fact, no one looks like that. So social media is helping making younger people, especially girls, more self-conscious. They said that there was a higher rise in the number of hospitalizations for self-harm, and you can't just completely take out social media as not being to blame for why part of this generation is very kind of insecure in a way.
Should we be questioning everything we read online? Right? How do we even, in this age of algorithms and fake news and all of these things, how can we trust anything that we see on social media? Right? Especially when, as humans, right, there's certain social signals that we use and would sort of traditionally use to tell trustworthiness that would align with things like how many followers does somebody have on social media, or do the pictures of them seem trustworthy or whatever, that can so easily be gamed and faked now. What do we do?
I personally, well, from what we always remember, not everything on the internet is true. So if something sounds suspicious, I would try to see if the local news, local news is covering it, or try to see more sources. Try to look for trustworthy sources, such as the New York Times or the Washington Post. Not just a website that's what is it? Not just like some sketchy website, because of course we don't know if it's true or not. That's always going to be an issue, especially unfortunately now with in our political environment, we can't really know what's going on. So I do think we can't really trust everything on the internet, unfortunately.
I would say I'm more prone to not believing in many things. I'm very skeptical about what I see. And I mean, first of all, I don't have social media, so I can't turn to that to get my news. And even if I did, I certainly wouldn't, get my facts from Facebook. And if I were, I mean, again, it's the thing of the news, but even the news, certain channels, you go on Fox News, you know what you're going to get. So even that's not completely trustworthy. So I agree, we're in a strange place where we're not really sure where we can get legitimate information. But I do think Rosie's right on that. Like, I would look more for like actual journalists, look at their track record. What do they follow? And also, don't just look at one source of information. Even if you don't agree with Fox News, I tune in every once in a while because I want to know what the other side is saying. Because if you're only looking at one certain news source to tell you what you already know and what you already believe, you like it because you've already been conditioned to like that side of the story. So, it's a strange place. I mean, I don't know. I don't turn to social media for my news. I turn to social media for entertainments, harmless entertainments, but I'm not looking to Facebook to tell me who to vote for or, what new conspiracy theories out there. It's not legitimate to me. And like we said, anyone can say anything and it can be true because they say it, but it's a dangerous power to have, to use social media to just spread anything true or false. I mean,
Like for instance,
that's like a non-answer, but like,
yeah,
it's
like for instance, I can say that the sky is green, and I could believe it, and I could convince other people to believe it as well. It's just a really tricky situation. Like Ginger said, it's a power that you have.
Mhm. I'm going to start. I want to really encourage people who want to participate. Please, if you please contribute in the chat. I would love to call on folks. The chat's probably the easiest way for me to call on people. Here's a question for you guys: is this film just fundamentally hypocritical? Right. This film is Netflix, right? So this is a film that is critical of recommendation algorithms coming from a company that is based around recommendation algorithms. Now, maybe they're not Twitter, but is it hypocritical? I mean, is the whole premise of this thing hypocritical?
Yes. I was reading up on like people's opinions on the documentary as well, and it really just like struck a nerve. It was saying how, okay, we are talking about the premises of the documentary is basically talking about the negative aspects of social media. However, it is on Netflix. Netflix would technically count as social media. It also, like you said, brings up recommendations for you from watching one thing. If you watched, for instance, Gilmore Girls, I will be recommended a whole bunch of other TV shows that I may not like, but it's just out there recommended me things. So it's also taking my data and it's also customizing things for me. So I think it's a slightly hypocritical of them to put this, but
I don't think Netflix is social media. That's not what it's for. It's a streaming service to see content. Yes, it uses algorithms obviously to curate things more specifically to what you would like. I mean, I don't want to be shown a bunch of, senseless action movies because I don't like watching that stuff. But it's not social media. And how do I say this? It just gives us content to watch, right? But it's not like if I see something on Netflix, I'm not gonna. It's not like a conspiracy theory where I can go out and like, form groups and go, protest stuff. It's not doing that. It's just they're moving.
But it might be, right? There's nothing to stop them from doing that. Right, YouTube has that, right? The most recommended videos on YouTube are all these crazy conspiratorial things.
But YouTube is not fact checked either. People can just post whatever they want on there. Netflix is one site, and it's not like people directly on Netflix can communicate with each other. If you want to do that, you have to go to Netflix's Facebook group. Netflix, you can't even post a comment on there. You can't even rate anything anymore. It's just, it's not social media. That's not what it is.
Oh, we got a question here from Helena. Helen, do you want to, why don't you come on and ask your question or make your comment yourself.
I'll unmute myself. Hi guys. Great debating so far. My question is kind of a bunch of questions, but is there a balance to how much we can consume? Is there a way to like ethically exist digitally without getting sucked into a rabbit hole? Like, is there some place where you guys would agree? Is it a platform? Like, is Instagram okay, but Twitter isn't? You know? Just throwing them all out there, anything.
I mean, my personal, well, I'm just saying, like, my personal view, like, let's say if I wanted to rank the social media sites, I mean, I would rank Facebook the lowest, and then maybe Twitter, and Instagram is just kind of like an aesthetic, really. It's an aesthetic thing. I don't see too much harm in it. As far as for going down a rabbit hole, I think, again, it's these algorithms suggesting things that will keep us hooked on. I mean, I know I spend a little too much time on YouTube. I mean, you know, I check my screen time and it's like 5 hours a day. That's, you know, and that's not social media. Like I'm not using any other social media. Like I basically just spend my time on YouTube. But I think being aware, first of all, of how much time you're spending on these platforms. I know for this, I checked and I was a little shocked at the number. And now it is a sort of compulsion. Like I said, I feel compelled to constantly check my phone, like what's new. So if you're just more aware of your habits and how much time you're spending on your phone on these different apps and like platforms, then I think that helps kind of put things in perspective and say, you know what, maybe I don't want to spend 5 hours a day on YouTube and on Facebook and on Twitter. Maybe I can do something else. But it's really, it's up to you. I mean, no one's going to tell you. I mean, it's in their best interest to keep you hooked on. If they can get 7-8 hours out of you, that's great for them. They don't care. It's not about your well-being. It's about how much views they can get.
What do you think, Rosie?
I would agree. So it really is up to you, ultimately. It is up to you to see, okay, like for instance, every Sunday I get a report stating how much time I've spent on my phone a day. It's a little higher than Ginger.
Isn't it terrifying though? You know, because I look at that number and I find it terrifying. I'm like, oh my,
it doesn't even seem like that much.
That's the part.
I'm like, I think it's a lie. I'm like, what?
See, the thing that for me that I always find very disturbing about this is you guys ever been to Vegas? It reminds me of like the people in Vegas who are like half asleep, still hitting in the slot machine. You know, like you're not even paying attention. I'm like, no, I just got to do this a little bit more before bed. I'm good. You know, like
and
you
they
guys,
use that
but what do you do first thing in the morning? Like both of you, what is the first thing you do in the morning?
And that's very true. I turn my alarm off and then I can't help but just check YouTube or do something. And I check myself on it and I'm more aware of it now. And it's like a daily thing of like, I'm still like half asleep and I have to remind myself, like, just turn your alarm off. Just don't, because easily 15-20 minutes will go by and like I have to get out of the house. I have to go to school. And that's how easily it is to just kind of lose track of time. Like where did these 15-30 minutes of my morning time go? So it's kind of like that. So now I'm kind of slowly starting to like trying to make myself not use my phone for the first 30 minutes of my day. Just something so simple like that, so that the first thing I don't see is like my screen and I'm still like half asleep and I can't even open my eyes and like I just have to be looking at my phone. So it's like little things like that. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's crazy. We use social media too much. I can admit, I don't know what I would do if I didn't have my phone on me. It's kind of like a pacifier. Like I need it to just feel safe, to have it, even if nothing's going on. I know that I have it. That's addictive.
So Sai's got a question. Sai, why don't you turn on your mic and ask your question?
Do you think social media has caused like a wider generational divide to form than there may be in person? Like, I mean, there's a lot of people that are older than our generation that use Facebook and get a lot of their news there. But I would say people our age use like Twitter or Instagram to get more of their information. So do you think that's caused a split in how we interact with those that are older than us?
I do think that, and I see all the time, like you just said, Facebook. I would say Facebook is for the older generation. I'm not sure how exactly that happened since it began as like a young platform for younger people in college, right?
Began for college students. You had to have a college email specifically in
Mhm.
order to use it.
In fact, it
Right,
started
so
in
I'm
the
not-
For
Ivy
other
Leagues.
ones.
It started in the Ivy
Yeah.
League. You had to be an Ivy in one of the Ivies, and then it became college students, and then it became everybody.
Yeah, but now it's just like it's for an older generation
It's for the old.
and the old people. But I'm not saying everyone, obviously not, but I mean there is like that right now, that generational gap where we see our generations a lot more progressive, a lot more accepting, a lot more diverse, and a lot more demanding to have, you know, the world, the world that we live in reflect the people that are basically the next generation who's going to take over the workforce and make the change. And you know, you see a lot more older generations just being, you know, less inclusive, less willing to change.
Well, some of
And
them.
well, yeah, I mean, of course, some of them, not everyone. But I mean, again, if more older generations are using Facebook and younger people are going more towards Twitter and Instagram and TikTok, even, I guess, until it disappears. Yeah, there's a
TikTok's
generational
very
divide.
young. TikTok skews very young. That's where all the preteens are going
Oh, yeah.
for their social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah.
But you know what? I would love to expand this idea because I actually think Sai's really onto something here. But I think it's not just what is the platform, because I think two different people can be on Twitter, two different people can be on Facebook, all of these things, and yet because it's algorithmic recommendations, what the world looks like to them is totally different, right? If I've been clicking on a bunch of, I don't know, white supremacist stuff, let me tell you, what YouTube's recommendations are going to be is totally different than if I'm clicking on a bunch of Black Lives Matter stuff, right? There's going to be zero overlap in terms of what's being sort of presented to me in the world. So yeah, I think there's generational stuff, but I think it's atomizing us, right? There's ways in which it's separate, like our realities are different. Like if my perception of reality is based on the inputs, right? Like what's the news, what's going on in the world, right? And yeah, if you're watching TV, you can blame Fox News or whatever, but this isn't Fox. Even the people who watch Fox News know what they're in for, right? Like you know what I mean? Like they understand the point of view of what they're watching, but YouTube doesn't seem like that's what's happening. And in fact, there's not Fox News, I can point to the people whose fault it is that Fox News has the point of view it does. The whole thing with the algorithms is, nobody did that, right? There's not a person who's like, you know what we need to do? We need to make sure that everybody is seeing more racist stuff. There's just, if you click on something that's borderline, right? They're like, hey, this is really popular. And the computer doesn't know. It doesn't know if it's good or bad or awful or making the world worse. It just knows it's going to get more clicks, right? Like it's optimized around clicks, not around like making the world a better place, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what I was touching on. I mean, these algorithms, they don't have a conscience. They don't know any better. They just do what they were made to do. And I do agree that, you know, it's a thing of just having like your own version of reality. And then that also makes me think, I mean, of course, I think I believe in what I believe. I'm not gonna, no matter how much an algorithm can suggest it to me, I'm not gonna jump on the white supremacist bandwagon. I'm just not, because that's my viewpoint.
Right.
But I'm saying it also makes me think about, why do I believe the things that I do? Do I really believe them, or was I just conditioned to believe them because of my age, of my gender, of my generation, you know? And so I tend to question things a lot more about, why do I believe the things that I do? And again, where do I get my information from? What am I hearing? Am I going to trust this, or am I just, you know, sometimes, I mean, come on, sometimes we're just like a little too like lazy, like to do a little bit more extra research. You know, we just want, like, everything has to be instant. So if this is the news and that's the news, you just take it and you don't question it. And it's a dangerous thing when, you're right, if you're only being shown one particular, you know, way of thinking, again, it just, it makes you feel like you have like a group of people who believe just like you. And as
Mm.
people, that's what we want. We're not solitary human beings. We crave community. So if my community is being a white supremacist, then that's what I'm going to look for, because I want that sense of community.
Now
And it's hard to get out of
up
it.
to you though. Like going back, like it's all based on you. At the
But
end
you're
of the
being
day,
manipulated.
but you
So
also
it can't
have
be
to,
all on you.
But you also have to look outside of the box and realize, okay, this is what's going on. Am I going to keep on letting it happen? Or am I going to go take a step back and make changes for myself and
Well,
do
right, but
things
most
for
people
myself?
like us, like let's say of our generation, we can agree on this and think that you have to be a critical thinker and understand that you have to make a choice. But most people, let's say like on Facebook or that older generation, they don't get that. They don't think like us. They think that what they see on Facebook and in these groups, that's true. How do you convince people that they're what they're seeing might not be the truth? Because again, it's a generational thing. I completely agree with you. We can't just put everything and blame it on someone else. But what
It's
about those
not a
people
black and white thing. It's just like a gray area. That's the
I know,
thing.
but this is our lives. I mean, why do we accept so much gray area when, like you said, very serious consequences are happening right now? I mean, look at the pandemic. Why do people get different alternative facts? These are things that are actually affecting us. People are dying. You know, that's pretty serious.
You know, I'm going to jump in here just because I think this is right on topic on what we're talking about. Mary, could you ask your question? I think your question is right on what we're talking about here.
Yeah, my question was, I don't know, to me the documentary seemed like a bit fear-mongering, because I think that all of these discussions that we see in the media about social media and within like just talking to each other, it all winds up putting the responsibility on the consumer of social media to make decisions for how you get your information, rather than holding the companies, holding the apps, holding the media accountable, because they're responsible of, you know, giving us these things that they're like, we didn't know at the time this would have been an issue. And it's like, that was kind of obvious. You're giving people a platform where they can say anything anonymously. How did you not know that could have gone bad? So that's my question. Do you think we should be looking more towards holding companies responsible more than the consumers of media?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. They create these very powerful social media platforms, and they are the ones that are responsible. So they're for making them, right? Because, you know, they're responsible for making them. They get the benefits of being multi-billion-dollar companies. So they're reaping all the benefits. So they're also then therefore responsible for making better social media platforms that can, again, distinguish between truth and fact. Are they, you know, just recently they blocked a QAnon. You know, it took them that much time, but it wasn't after they had like such immense social and political pressure to do so. So I don't, they create, like, again, social media, a platform, it's so persuasive, it's so seductive. People can't help but use it. And yes, people should obviously want to be able to like check themselves and behave like better human beings, but you can't ask that of all people. So we can't just hold everyone accountable and just say, do better. It has to be the social media platforms making better decisions, using better algorithms to weed out misinformation. Because, you know, people want to think they have like a lot of free will, but like they kind of need to be told what to do. So if these social media platforms are the ones that are making these rules, if they're setting up, you know, how things are done on their social media platforms, then that informs how users will use yeah, I'm getting tongue tied. But yes, basically the answer, the responsibility lies in the social media platforms. They are the ones that are responsible for making a tool that is more beneficial to human beings instead of just prioritizing profits for them.
Now I have a question for you. Am I allowed to ask a
Sure.
question? Now, I know my opinion on this. I just wanted to hear yours. Now, would you blame capitalism for that?
Absolutely.
Because in all honesty, with social media, although I'm pro, at the end of the day, they just want their profits. So it's not necessarily our fault. It's mostly how the companies run it. Like you said, they want their profit. They want to see all that. But now it's not our fault. It's basically how they're um, using social media for us.
Yeah.
I think they should be held accountable for this. It's not just, we can argue all day saying like we need to do better, but it's also they have to make it better first, because we can't be the solely responsible ones for making our social media better when they're the ones that have the power to make it better for us.
Well, yeah, that's the point. They're the ones that have the power. They're completely in power. We are just the product. We're the thing that's being sold. And yes, you're right. It's because this country is just based on capitalism, and the bottom line is always money. It's always greed. And if your bottom line is just making money, then who cares if what your platform stands for is harming people? What does it matter when you can make money off of it? And I think like I said, well, most companies work this way. It's always profit over anything else. And it's not until their profit is in danger that they will make a change. So that's what I'm saying. If they have more social pressure and government pressure to make these changes, because if they don't, then they lose users, and losing users means loss of money. And it's not until their money is affected that they will care enough to change it. So I'm saying it matters how people get on one page and say, this can be better, and pressure them to do it. Because right now they have absolutely no fiscal incentive to change what they're doing, because they're making too much damn money off of it. And like I said, social media is not made with our well-being in mind. The bottom line is always money. And does it really matter how they do it? No. But I mean, we can't change from being a capitalist country, but we can just change how things are done so that they serve us better. If that makes sense. Yeah.
I'm gonna throw this to Helena. Helena, you got some questions.
Sure, I can split them up. This one's to Rosie. If you could change something about social media to make it better, like say you were trying to convince Ginger to make an account on Instagram, like what would you change? Like how would you frame it? And then I guess to Ginger, like you talked about like the critical thinking that you need to be on social media properly and to like know what's real from fake so you don't get sucked into rabbit holes. And I would maybe go so far to say it's like media literacy as a term, but like where do we learn that? Where should we get that? We'll have Rosie start, I guess. You could jump around. I don't know.
I don't know. Oh boy. With Instagram, to make it better, I think the number one thing would be the algorithms, because personally, the way the algorithm is set up is showing the best things first, whereas you would want to see like things that were updated chronologically. Also, I do think not showing how many likes in a post there is great. I think just showing off like this cool thing that you found or this cool photo, I think that's how it makes it better. Because when you get to the likes and the comments, that's where everything goes a little sour, because it's like, oh, there's this nice picture of something that I made and it has 1,000 likes, but someone else made something similar and has 50 likes. Like, taking that away would make it better.
I would say I think I got the tougher question because I don't know. Um, See, that's the difficult part because I don't have the answer to this necessarily. I mean, I could direct you to one website, like get your information there, but then again, that's another thing influencing you to go to this place to get your information. But to me, I don't know where best to get my information. I don't know how to become more literate in social media, and I can't reconcile, you know, what I would like social media to be and how to get there. And I think that's a big part of the reason why I don't have social media because I don't know what to do with it, and I feel like it's more harmful to me not knowing how to use it properly and knowing where my information is going to come from if I can't agree on where I'm being taken by these different like news sources. So again, I would say the news, but even today the news is very it's polarized as well. And like I said, if you go to one certain news outlet and you know basically what you're gonna get. But I mean, I guess you could also go on like, you know, like let's say you can tune into Fox News more. You might not agree with it, but at least it's interesting to hear what the other side is saying. So at least you know what the argument is. And then you might find that maybe you agree on a few things. That's not the end of the world, but at least if I don't, that only solidifies that I do know what I think because I'm hearing the opposite argument of it. So at least I know strongly that I believe in this, not because someone told me or because a news outlet told me, but because it just goes down to my own personal beliefs and the way like I said, the generation, the age that I am, my gender, that all these things have influenced me to believe a certain way. So I think it's just, it's a tough question. There is no one place to go to.
You keep mentioning Fox News. What if we don't go to like cable specific channels? What if we just go to local? Because from what I've noticed, at least with local, they shouldn't have a specific side. They should just be specifically stating the facts.
I think it
of
depends on
what's
where
going
you are.
on.
I think
Yeah.
it depends on where you are. I
If
think
you're
there
in one of the southern states, I mean, what are you gonna get?
Yeah,
So it's like
that's true.
we don't know where do we go? I mean, I
It-
only use Fox News because that to me is like the epitome of like
The opposite side.
I
I
Right.
think it's just a little
Stupidity.
difficult now, just because, again, our political environment. We have a president that says fake news. All of a sudden, everything that he doesn't agree with is fake news, and that's not necessarily correct. But because we have this person as our president, now we have to start questioning things. Now we have to start questioning where we get our news now, because it's like, well, he's saying this, but in reality, it's something completely different. I think that really was a tough question for
It
you.
is. I mean, there's nothing. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's more like intelligent people than me who are in this who would have a better idea. But I mean, again, I just struggle with wanting to know the news and knowing what's going on, and then being so overwhelmed by such polarizing sides that sometimes I just feel like I'd rather just completely tune it out. But then if you're
Yeah.
not like tuning in, then that you don't know what's
That's
going
even
on,
worse.
and then you become more ignorant. So it's like either be completely ignorant and don't pay attention to anything and not know what's going on, or listen to some news and just like little bits and pieces here and there and just kind of make it up from there.
Overwhelmed.
Because
I can add on
Yeah.
to the question. Sorry, it's so
Please.
tough. More just like, do you think it should be up to ourselves to like find those sources or find the tools to be literate, I guess, in social media, but like the getting that critical thinking skills? Or do you think like maybe our education systems should pick that up? Is there an institution that should be teaching that?
It would be great if an institution would be able to kind of lay that blueprint of being more literate in, you know, all this information. Helena, I forgot your question. What did you say?
No, I answered it. I mean, going along with like, I mean, I personally think that like we should have media literacy classes teaching like, what is this source trying to tell us? Is it persuading
Well,
us?
it's not
Yeah.
like you
And
can
not,
have
I mean, the
quiz
thing is,
English.
it's not like nationalized. Like some, yeah,
No.
you might have had something like that
But
lesson or
That would be
class.
great
know,
to
the
have.
whole danger with all of that is who's teaching that class, right? And if, as
Because
soon as
it
you're in the
depends.
public schools, as soon as you're in the public schools, who's on the school board just making the decisions around that? Let me tell you, like rural Texas, they're going to be the media they're going to be suggesting is the trustworthy media. I think is probably different than what you're going to have, say, if we had a class like that here at Columbia, right? Like I just feel like different areas and sort of I mean, that's the danger, right? The danger is, well, you should only trust Fox News. Everybody else is a liar. Like, you know, like that's right. If you get to choose what's accurate and what's not accurate. You know, I think Joan had a good suggestion here. Joan, do you want to make your suggestion? Joan?
Hi, sorry. Yeah, I find that public television is a very, you know, straight journalism, and you know, if they have people giving opinions, you know that little section is their opinions, but pretty much it's reporting. So I would wish that everybody tried to have that as a sort of, you know, North Star, and then, you know, look at the other things. But there are still real journalists doing, you know, trying to get to the truth, you know, and some of them are paid for out of our tax dollars, so, or a small portion. So, you know, anyway, that's just my suggestion.
Thank you, Joan. And by viewers
That's a
like
good
you.
suggestion. Yeah. Like she mentioned PBS, I agree. But again, the thing is, PBS is not as flashy as Fox News, so they don't get as many viewers. So it has to be the person's, like I said, instead of watching those kind of news sites, check out PBS, see what they're saying. Because
Right.
I agree. I would trust PBS. Who doesn't trust PBS?
They need a better algorithm, right? They need more shouting, right? They need more
Yeah.
shouting. Okay, all right. So I'm going to change the subject just slightly, and then I want to get closing remarks from you guys. So just to bring it back around to the actual documentary itself, what are our thoughts on the reenactments? You know, the stuff with the family and the like extreme center or whatever they tried to like stop they're like, well, we can't make them a white supremacist, so we can't, you know, like, but like of course that's what's happening there, and or the little people who are supposed to be the algorithms, and the, like what do we think about that? Just as a piece of movie.
Can I be completely honest? The scene with the daughter, way too dramatic for my taste. I think that's
smashing the phone.
Yeah,
Or
that
getting it out of
part.
the, yeah.
That part just like struck a nerve with me. I was just like,
Yeah.
Did any of it feel
How?
authentic to you? I mean, did it, you know, did you feel an authenticity, or did it feel like it was sort of pandering and like over the top?
no, it was over the top. To me, for example, when we eat, we don't use our phones. Like you may have it right next to you, but you're not supposed to use it at all. Like we all just know that. The fact that the mom had to make a huge show of it and say, we're putting it in this box, and yeah.
Sorry, what were you saying? I'm sorry, I got it.
Like that just seemed over dramatic to me, because we may have our phones in the table, but while we're eating and we're talking and we're listening to the news. and we're just like talking about how our work day was. Like the fact that she made a huge show of putting it in a box, and then the daughter deciding, well, I can't handle this and I need to smash it. Like uh, that would not fly. Like I don't see that happening. Like that was just a little too dramatic. And then I'm sorry, the whole when the son is like left his phone, we beforehand he was like trying to speak to Rebecca and trying to get her attention and try to see if they could get together, or if that's what I believe. And then all of a sudden we see the little people like, okay, we're gonna send this to him because now he's ready for this. I just didn't, it didn't click how it went from going to Rebecca to EC that quickly. Like I thought we were still trying to talk with Rebecca, not just go all the way to over here. It was a little weird, to say the least. To put it in this small, like simple terms.
Yeah. I would say I get their intention of trying to make like trying to put like the human element to it and make it more personable, because the documentary usually is just about facts. And I get the whole trying to like dramatize a whole family situation. I get it. I do agree. I don't think it was necessarily, it was necessary. And I think it was like a little over dramatic sometimes. But the only time that I really did kind of strike a nerve with me was with the young daughter, and basically showing like she took a selfie and then she thinks she looks cute. She posts it, and then, you know, one little comment, a mean comment, and now she feels terrible about herself. And I feel like that's pretty close to the truth. I mean, how that affects you. So I think that did strike a nerve, and it was tough to see it too, because I think we've all kind of been there where, you know, you feel good about yourself, and then one person just has to ruin it for you, and it really does affect you deeply, you know, and that kind of stuff stays with you. So that's what I was kind of talking about, like self-esteem and social media. And the other part was the whole storyline about the young kid, about how he started being more prone to like conspiracy theories. And I thought that to me seemed kind of pretty close to what the reality must be. Like, oh, you think you're watching something very like educational or like on the edge, and then quickly, like I said, you go down the rabbit hole of all these other conspiracy theories that are quite harmful. So I think it's easier to see how some people might be like prone to believe in some of those things. But yeah, those are like really the only two times. Everything else was like a little much. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd say that the daughter one was the moment felt, that's so human, right? You get 99 positive comments and you get the one negative one, and the negative one is the one that sticks with you. We evolved as social animals, and it's like it feels like such a rejection, even though it's just something casually thrown off by someone who's not giving any thought to it necessarily. So, all right, so let's do some concluding remarks. Why don't we wrap this up, guys? So who wants to go first?
I can go.
All right.
Okay, so he gets the last word. Okay, so I mean, ultimately what I'm saying, I'm not saying that social media is all good or all bad, or that you either have to use it or don't use it, but I think we have to start prioritizing our mental health, our privacy, and our access to factual information by demanding and putting pressure on these platforms and the government to incite better practices. And I think if social media is only going to continue to become a more integrated part of our lives, there is a social responsibility to make that technology serve us better rather than prioritize profit. And on an individual level, I think that we should make more of an effort to become critical thinkers, become smarter consumers of content, and practice behavior that creates a healthier and more ethical and socially conscious social media impact.
All right, Rosie.
Well, I do agree with what she said, but also, it's not always social media's fault. I will give you that. It's up to the company. Yes, it's because the company needs to become more responsible. But at the end, it's also up to us to see what we consume and to see if we like what we consume. And if we don't, we need to fix that quickly. Um, you have to step back and look and see, okay, well, maybe, how do I explain it? Maybe what I'm seeing isn't so positive for me. I'll go and fix that. I'll unfollow this one thing to see to get rid of like the negativity in a way. I wanted to bring up over yesterday actually, I had decided to do a little experiment with social media. I decided to put something personal, and I realized how people were sending kind and positive notes to me, uplifting notes. I think in the end, we need to surround ourselves with positivity, because that way social media won't be that bad. Following mean people maybe isn't the greatest way. So I think it's not all social media's fault. I think we just have to like step back sometimes and reassess our values.
All right, awesome. Thank you both so much. Huge round of applause to our two debaters tonight. Amazing job. Thank you everybody for coming out. We couldn't have done it without all of you. Stay well, stay healthy, use social media a reasonable amount or not at all, except for where it makes you positive and brings happiness to you. So thanks everybody for coming out, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Awesome, thank you.
You did a great job.
Thank you.